Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of Coffee and Communication. We are going to be covering about 4 topics here in our time online. If you've got some comments or questions here, go ahead and drop them in the appropriate chat box, depending on where you are. This is going to be broadcast or is being broadcast on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. So it's going to be in all of these different places, though Twitter isn't working right again. So it will be on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram is where it will be. The first thing we're going to dive into here today is, hang on, so I'm bringing up my notes. Let's talk about some things coming up this week. We do have the next installment of the virtual book club with Think and Grow Rich. Here, this is the edition that we're using, the official publication from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And so far, we have done chapters on the introduction. We've done it on desire, and we've talked about faith and how it relates to achieving your goals and how this integrates into communication. The next chapter is going to be on auto-suggestion, which, if you were able to join us for chapter 3, is an extension of that discussion. And how do we reinforce and enact what we want and cross that gap between coming up with that desire and making it a reality. So that will be released tomorrow on Thursday. So keep your eye out for that. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, do that, because you'll get a notice of when these videos become available through that mechanism. So go ahead and subscribe. That is, you can find that at www.chadonyoutube.com. So you can go there and subscribe for that as well. And I'll put this up here on the screen so you can see that. So you can go there and subscribe to that. And all the videos will be housed there at the YouTube channel. So join us for that, or get caught up on the first 3 chapters. Next week, we will be doing a live Q&A for the book club, which will probably be Thursday. I'll publish that in the next day or so. So if you're able to join us for that, that is also going to be done primarily through the YouTube channel. So go ahead and sign up for the notification for that live event. That'll be up within the next day or so. So you can participate and join us on that. And so it's a lot more than just reading. We can discuss some questions and topics that you have there. One of the things that we get, people get into when they're meeting people, when we're talking about people, when we're making introductions, even, just in the course of regular business meetings and stuff like that, is how do we remember people? And how do people make that impression that is going to go forward to helping us remember who that person is and what they have to contribute? And one of the areas that this becomes a topic really is, how is a person going to be memorable? Now, in this picture here, you'll see up inside here, we have a lion, wearing a business suit. If you see this picture, this is probably going to stick in your mind some, especially if you saw someone like this walking around in your event. That person's definitely also going to stick out in mind, the lion person in this situation. But it really serves as a good metaphor for what we need to do when we meet people. Even if it's people we know, how often do we interact with them? How often do we see them? This past Monday, I participated in the graduation ceremonies for the Master of Science in Communication at Northwestern. I'm involved as an alumni there. And there were people I hadn't seen probably in a year, maybe not since the previous, graduation ceremony, or other people that I had worked with during the year, the faculty and staff and other members of the alumni body. But it's always good to have a way that you can rekindle it, to what's going on, so that people, know how and why they should keep you fresh in their memory. And this doesn't really matter if you're in a small business, a big business, if you're a solopreneur. We all need people in different ways. You need people, I need people, and if nothing else, We need customers. Now, probably sounds a little hippie-ish, but it's the truth. We need to interact with people in some way, format. Even if you're a solopreneur, uh, you need people to patron your services. You need people to buy your stuff. Otherwise, you won't be in business for very long. Um, and also, there's other people that we interact with, on a professional and a personal basis, partners, regulators, retailers, other people that work on our teams, people that we work for, customers that we do work for, people that work for us. And we're not even talking about the personal side of stuff yet. But the one common thread in that is, how do people remember you? And why are you memorable? Um, because as people, we crave these connections. We've seen the yo-yo and the up and down that's happened recently, going through the pandemic, and where we went from a normal work environment to then an all virtual environment for a lot of people, and then back into the offices. And we create that interaction. And a lot of people have kind of settled on the hybrid. We do both, which I think is actually a pretty good, um, business model to follow. Many people do not want to go into the office every day for a variety of reasons, but it depends on the nature of your business. Depends on what your business decides is the model that they're going to follow. In all those situations, virtual, in person, how do you stick out? Why do people want to remember you, get to know you, and do stuff? Um, and one of these things that traits that goes along with this is being able to say what you need. And this isn't saying you should come out and just blatantly say something, but being able to, elegantly communicate of what you're about, what you do, what you need. In a networking situation, you're looking to meet potential customers. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Who is a customer for me? Who's a typical profile? Sharing that business with people, that's going to help people remember who you are and what you're looking for. Um, where people, can sabotage themselves, though, is, what's the nature in which they share this information? Are they sharing it in a relationship building type of situation, or is it just kind of that stereotypical, scene we'll see where someone goes through a networking meeting or a chamber meeting, whatever it might be, hands out their business cards, buy my widget, buy my widget. You never see from them again. You don't know anything about them. You just are standing with business cards. So what? Um, so how do you turn other people that you meet into where they remember you for a good way? And these can be relationships that, they remember you. Maybe they build, trust in you, confidence in you, and it could lead to something else. They refer you to someone else, maybe to someone you're looking to hire, um, or even in a personal level. So how do you introduce yourself? Um, what's the secret, hack to it? What's the recipe? And do you go quick and dirty with a handful of words? There's all kinds of hacks out there about how you should introduce yourself, stuff like that. And this is something that I did dive deeper into with people in a number of different ways. I'll be speaking on this topic at the Vet Social 25 Summit in September. So I'll put a link to that in the notes. If you're a veteran or affiliated with a veteran in some way, check that out. Might be a good event for you to attend. There's a lot of different speakers in addition to myself that you might find interesting. But you need to not only strike this balance of knowing what to say, knowing what not to say, how much of it, but also how do you make that impression? And we're not talking about elevator speeches here, just kind of toss those out the window, because people just kind of glaze over. When people start getting hit with an elevator speech, just like, I got to listen to this. Happens in networking meetings, whether they're online or in person. Everybody gets up and says they're blah, 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 blah. And 90% of people don't know who in the hell they were in that meeting with. So it doesn't matter in the long run. Meeting people's not enough. It has to be more to it than just that. Uh, how do you validate the relationships that are worth pursuing that aren't? We'll get into more on that in some future videos, some of the work I do around introductions. But what you're looking to do is make that imprint on somebody, kind of like the lion might imprint on you. And generally it comes into one of two ways. That person happens to need something that you're selling. the odds of lightning striking at that moment are pretty low, granted, or they need something in the future, or they're interested in something about you, about your business, about what you do. And if someone finds you interesting, that's going to open the door to them finding you credible, which really is what brings up this chain of events that people need to keep in mind when they're going out to meet people and they want to be memorable. The first thing is, regardless of whatever it is that you do, be good at it. Be an expert. There shouldn't be any doubt. Can you actually do what you say that you do? And the other great side effect of this is, like, when you're really good at something, when you've achieved expert level, you're going to have the confidence that comes with it. So you're building the expertise, which builds the confidence, and all of that helps you to project credibility. Now, the downside of this is it takes time. You're investing in a skill, in a career. And a lot of times people want to find these shortcuts. They'll do these hacks that they learn, or someone else teaches them how to do about, introductions or neuroscience and stuff like that. Shortcuts are called shortcuts for a reason. They don't typically work very well. You have to put in the time, become the expert in your field. You'll build the confidence through doing that. You'll start projecting the credibility from that. And all that is going to help contribute to generating interest in yourself. It's time. It takes work. It's like looking for a job. People pump out the resumes, not usually the most successful way of getting a job. You're really trying to hit the lottery, versus you do the research. You meet the companies that you want to work for, the people that you want to work for, in different indirect ways, and a lot of times. It's time and patience that a lot of people don't have to do this. But the thing is, when you do it, you're going to be generating that advantage over everybody else around you. Because people will get a sense of, okay, this person's impressive. They know what they're talking about. They can talk intelligently about it. They carry themselves in a way that they project that they know what they're doing. And that is going to help spur interest in that person. This is one of the reasons why people are a little leery about, salespeople, people that come in and do the quick fly in and out, the buy my widget, business card dispenser, the salesperson you never see again. Or you see that same salesperson repeatedly with different companies doing completely different things. Kind of makes you wonder, what does that person really do in that situation? And this is one of the precautions when you're working with someone that changes what they do a lot is, are they staying in a field to have that body of expertise? Kind of one rule of thumb for being expert level is the Beatles rule. Before they got big, they practiced in Germany for about 5 years. Roughly 10,000 hours. If you figure it's about 2,000 hours to the work year for most people. If you're always switching what you're doing, you're never accumulating that time to get to that level of expertise. And that is going to impact how you come across to people. Now, some people are psychopathic. They can fool people. They can say the buzzwords, things like that. But usually that's going to come out. And then what's really a sad situation is where someone does have that expertise, does have that credibility, and they start throwing it away. Boeing, you look at an organization that, had such a high level of trust. There used to be a saying, if it ain't Boeing, I'm not a going. Now they don't enjoy that. And then you also look at that expertise, that body of knowledge. And one of the differences between Boeing and Airbus that stands out to me anyway, is Boeing's run by finance people. The CEO of Airbus is an engineer. They have that expertise, they have that knowledge, and they're able to, build the confidence that goes with that and projecting the credibility of their product, of their organization. And I think it shows. Getting back to the networking, how do you become more interesting? So you become the expert in what you do. And that builds the confidence. You're able to project the credibility, but also in addition to that, you need to be able to talk intelligently about it to be interesting, and also in a way that connects with people. And this is where one of the exercises that I work with people is called the 3x10 plus 10 exercise. And I'm going to post the videos for this on the YouTube channel. So if you want to find this, go there to find it. And it's an exercise where it's going to help you get the content to be a good communicator. Because that's one of the things that people run into is they're at a networking event, they're at a dinner or something, and they're just kind of a blank page. They don't really have anything that they can pull from to talk about that is going to make the right impression. If you're staying at home watching, Ren and Stimpy cartoons all day and you go to a leadership dinner, that's probably not going to translate very well. Are you taking in the right kind of information that you can talk intelligently about and share? And so with 3 by 10 plus 10 is where you read a magazine for 10 minutes, you read a book for 10 minutes, and then you write about that for 10 minutes every day. And then at the opposite end of the day that you do that, you go back and you read it for 10 minutes. It's real simple. It's a real simple way to upskill your conversation and networking game. So if you do the exercise in the morning, then you spend the 10 minutes going back and looking over your notes in the evening. If you do the exercise in the evening or the afternoon, you spend 10 minutes the next morning to go back and look at it. Whatever works for you. But it's really designed to give you some rigor and some system that which you can become a better communicator, because to do that, you've got to have something interesting and intelligent and entertaining to say. So that's something to keep in mind when you're picking your different materials. And the thing that's important is that you go through and you read through those materials, or you think about what it is. The writing part is also going to help you retain it. This is just yet another reason why I'm a huge fan of journals, because you can do your writing in this in addition to everything else. Writing helps retention. And if you go through the 3 by 10 plus 10 exercise, it's going to help you in so many ways. While I'm at it, I'm going to plug the book club again. You can read this for 10 minutes a day, and you'll easily get through that chapter for the week. And then you can write about it for every day, and that's going to help you get the most that you can out of that book and any reading, because we want to get something out of it. Something that we can also talk about. Maybe you like travel books about somewhere you went, somewhere you go. That can be a really good topic to talk about with people as well, if you're just looking for subjects. So don't worry about the elevator pitch. Worry about being interesting. Worry about being memorable. And the way that you're going to do this is by being really good at what you do, having the confidence that's going to be a byproduct of that, which is going to help you project credibility. And then you're going to be able to discuss interesting things. You're going to be able to be that interesting person. You won't have to, pet on the lion head or dress up as a lion in a suit, but you could be that equivalent, something that exudes confidence, credibility, authority, and interest, so that people want to know who you are, or they want to learn more. They might want to hire you. So be interesting. Plus, it's fun. Read stuff that's fun. Do stuff that's fun. Write about stuff that you've done that's interesting. A concert you went to, travel, whatever it is. All those things are going to help you become a better communicator in those kind of environments. So part of the graduation thing that I mentioned, the ceremony that I went and participated in, was the keynote speech. And as the representative of the Alumni Association, my role was to introduce the keynote speaker, who happened to be another alumni who also teaches in the program, Jean Sparrow. And she is a former NBC News anchor. She's won 7 daytime Emmys, I believe they're daytime Emmys, and some other awards. And she also has a book out. It's fearlessauthenticity.com. You can go to that website, learn more about Jean and her book. She also has an audiobook for that as well. She talks about different leadership sales and communication topics. So my role was to introduce her for that. And one of the things that's always interesting when you get in a situation where you're listening to a speech, whether it's a keynote or something else, is how much attention do people pay to it? And what do they get out of it? Now, a lot of that is on the speaker. Does the speaker know how to craft a message that is relevant, that this is the right audience for it, that they are engaged with it, but also what's the after state? And this is why one of the things that I always stress in communication is, what's your day plus one? Your now plus one. Your communication activity is over, then what? Because when we just watch something or listen to something and nothing ever happens out of it, A, we're misleading ourselves because every communication lasts beyond that initial impact. It lasts for as long as people remember it. And if you're not remembering it and you're not taking advantage of it, you're putting yourself in a weak position because other people will. And the thing is, how do you leverage it for your benefit? And one thing to keep in mind here, if you find yourself where you're listening to a speech, maybe it's a keynote at some event, some presentation by someone at a conference convention, when you're sitting there going through it, do this exercise where you're listening for at least one thing, one little nugget of something that's significant to you, whether it's something you think it might be helpful, something you agree with, something you disagree with, something you find entertaining. But find that one thing. Again, another reason to bring at least a pen with you to these events, ideally your journal, so you can write this stuff down, so you can go back and look at this. But jot it down. And then that day, go into your planner or your reminders and write it down and set it for 3 months. And in 3 months, when that alarm goes off, sit down and look at that. Look at what you wrote down. Include why you did it, why it was significant. Is that still the case with you? Is there something that you learned? Is it something that helped you with? And then share that. Share that with the speaker. Share that with the person that you heard talk about that topic. A couple different reasons for this. Number one, every communication lasts beyond that first instance, that day plus one. Number two, communication is a two-way activity. It's the exchange of information between two or more parties. When it's just one directional, unidirectional, you're not getting the real benefit out of it without that kind of feedback or acknowledgement, that receipt. And this is what is going to help you do this. Because when you set that reminder, go off in 3 months, and if something pops in your mind of something about it earlier, by all means, you don't have to wait 3 months. But this is like kind of at the outside of it. But go back and say, oh, you know what? This person said this and was talking about, how to look at stuff this way instead of that way, or about this experience. And I had something that was very similar, and this is why it helped me to listen to this person speak. And drop them just a short message. They're probably accessible over social media or through their website, something like that. Most of the time when someone does a keynote, they have some way to get in touch with them. So be sure to include that information in your note, in your reminder, as far as how you would get in touch with them, their website, their email, whatever it might be, social media platforms. And just drop a simple message. Hey, I heard you talk about this. It really resonated with me. Thank you. Odds are you will probably get a response, because speakers and writers and authors, we love to get responses. We love to know that something that we have said or something that we have written has landed with somebody. It's one of the things that's great about social media. It kind of speeds up that feedback loop when people use it. And so, number one, you're going to make that person's day. Number two, you could open up a discussion, and you never know what could become of that. They may engage you in another conversation, like, well, tell me more about this, or why that. Or they may refer you that, someone else that really had this experience was this, was this person here. Would you like me to introduce you? And you start having those common interests, and people start wanting to engage and collaborate. So there is that benefit for you as an individual to do this, because that's really what everything in communication comes down to, is what's our individual desired outcomes. Always has been, always will be, and then everything else builds on top of that. But this is a really missed opportunity that people don't take advantage of when they hear something. You can also apply this to books, articles, stuff that you read. If you read something and it really strikes you from an author, jot this stuff down. And then when you're done, maybe pick the one or two things that really stuck out in your mind, or however many, and say, man, this is why your book, like, it just really, struck home with me, is it had this huge impact. Again, people like to hear that they had that impact. You're going to benefit from tracking all that information down and thinking about it. And who knows what kind of discourse and collaboration can result from that itself. So don't miss these opportunities, because a lot of people, I tell you, I think 95% probably of the audience, they're like this. They want to graduate. They want to listen to the keynote speaker, get it out of the way. walk, get their diploma, get their photographs done. That's really what a lot of graduation is about. It's the families and the photographs and the celebration of that achievement. But don't bypass those opportunities to be able to open up new relationships, network, and collaborate with people. Great, great opportunities. And you can apply this to any event, even weddings. You can do this, or funerals. You can do that as well. But be classy, be tasteful, and respectful. So don't miss these opportunities. Track down what people said, what resonated with you, and share it back with them. At some point in the future. The last topic I want to touch on here today in coffee and communication or communication coffee, is what's going on in the job market with AI and entry level people. And there was a Wall Street Journal article past day, maybe 2 days ago now. This is July 30th. So it was the early part of this week, talking about how companies are not hiring entry level people or even junior level employees, and they're replacing the work that they're doing with AI. This is going to be a problem, because while AI can do a lot of the menial type of work, it can do some of the research, it can do simple media production, stuff like that. It really is beneficial most when it's an augmentation, when people understand how to use this tool instead of the tool replacing them in this situation. Because what these organizations are going to run into, and it's just such short-sightedness. If you're not having those junior entry-level people entering the industries, entering your organization, you're breaking your pipeline. You're breaking your talent pipeline. And that's going to be a problem at some point. Because whether or not one company does it, or it's a collection of companies that do it, or it's an industry that does this, you're going to have all these people sitting on the sidelines, which are eventually going to find something else to do, and you are going to be without the talent. And people may not forget that you were like, whatever, we didn't want entry level, junior level people anymore. And now we need someone to fill these slots as people retire, promote, move on, quit, whatever. And there's no pipeline, there's no feed. Now, I do know of organizations who are actually acting very aggressively and assertively in the opposite direction. They are collecting interns, they are collecting entry level people, because they see where that value is. Because one thing with AI that people really need to keep in mind is the AI is not an employee. You're probably using that service from somebody else. Even if you're building your own version, it's sitting on top of somebody else's AI model. What happens if that disappears? Where does all that corporate knowledge, all that experience, go? It just goes poof, potentially. It's the same argument of journal versus an electronic journal versus using Evernote or, something like that. If those companies go belly up and go away, or they decide to up their fees to where it's no longer, really financially feasible, what happens to all your data versus something like this? Think of this analog journal person, leverage technology to make the person better, to perform at a higher level. Now, is AI going to have labor implications? Already is. It's not going to change that in that respect. My perspective on this has always been, if you're an A or a B performer that learns how to leverage AI just like any other technology, you're going to do good. If you're a C or below performer, you're probably in a bad position. You need to either get better really quickly or go find something else to do, because AI is going to do what you can do quicker, if not better, and then the other people can refine that work. So if you're in a leadership position and you're looking at how to use AI with your organizations, think about your talent pipeline, think about the quality of your communication, who's going to connect with people more, because at least at this point, you can still kind of tell an AI generated communication, especially something that's written, poor grammar, poor style. Yes, it's getting better, but it's not that difficult to detect unless you really don't care and not looking for it. But this is one of those situations where, this deficiency in having people is going to catch up, and it's going to be a pretty significant impact on these organizations, on the quality of these communications. It's like, think about when we get robocalls. We don't want to talk to that because we know that that's kind of this forced rote, communication. Same thing with spam. LinkedIn's become like a spam hell, getting all these solicitations on a daily basis. And you just start shutting down. And if your AI work product starts going down that path and people don't feel like there's a person behind it, what's going to be the impact to your future, to your organization's future, to your products, to your services, especially if you can't backfill those positions when people time out and they move on. So some things to think about here from today's Communication Coffee. We'll be back next week with another episode of it. This week, don't forget to check out for the virtual book club. Next movie we'll be doing shortly, probably end of this week, early next week. It's going to be either Jurassic Park or Fantastic Four. Haven't decided which one that we're going to see yet. It'll be one of those two. If you haven't checked out Communication in the Movies with Superman and F1, go ahead and find those in the YouTube channel as well. F1, awesome movie, my favorite movie of the summer by far. So go and check those out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe. It tells me that you're consuming the information, that you're interested in it. If you got any comments on any of these platforms that this is broadcasting on, please leave some comments, questions, and I'll get back to those and respond to them. And don't forget, next week for Virtual Book Club for Think Real Rich, we are doing the live Q&A session. So with that, everybody have a good remainder of your week. Communicate well, be healthy, and prosper. Talk to you later.